More fallout from the overturning of Roe v. Wade. George Washington University is now responding to calls to have Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas kicked off campus. Justice Thomas is an adjunct professor and a lecturer for GW Law.
This comes after a student drafted a petition to have Thomas banned. The petition has nearly 6,000 signatures. John Kay says this isn't just about abortion, but Justice Thomas's concurring opinion in which he writes about revisiting and overturning cases that established rights to contraception, along with same-sex relations and marriage.
It is not acceptable for Judge Thomas to be teaching students that he does not respect and does not believe have the same rights as straight people or the minority of men on campus. This isn't about ideological agreement. It's about a teacher having respect for his students.
In an email to students from the university's law school dean and provost, they say that Justice Thomas's views do not represent the schools and they support a robust exchange of ideas. Because of that, they go on to say, quote, the university will neither terminate Justice Thomas's employment nor cancel his class in response to his legal opinions.
Much scorn has been levied specifically at Justice Clarence Thomas over his concurring opinion that said the court should re-examine its past rulings on contraception and same-sex marriage as well. Over the weekend, GW students launched a petition for the school to fire Thomas from his position as an adjunct professor and lecturer at the university's law school, where he teaches constitutional law. The petition racked up nearly 7,500 signatures in just days. The petition cited the decision to overturn Roe as well as Thomas's concurring opinion. It also made reference to Justice Thomas's wife, Virginia, or Ginny as she's known, who urged Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to continue the fight to overturn the 2020 presidential election results after it was clear that Trump had lost and the legal remedies had been exhausted. But in a surprising show of fortitude, University Provost Christopher Bracey and GW Law Dean Dana Bowen Matthew announced yesterday that Thomas will retain his teaching position. In an email, they said, quote, because we steadfastly support the robust exchange of ideas and deliberation, and because debate is an essential part of our university's academic and educational mission to train future leaders who are prepared to address the world's most urgent problems, the university will neither terminate Justice Thomas's employment nor cancel his class in response to his legal opinions. The student behind the petition to oust Justice Thomas from GW, John Kay. John, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what am I getting wrong here?
Well, there are a number of conservative professors at GW, and the reason that we want Justice Thomas gone isn't because of his ideas, it's because of the actions that his ideas have informed. Overturning Roe and his stated intention to overturn Obergefell, Lawrence, and versus Connecticut will disenfranchise thousands of queer students and students with wombs that not only have to go in D.C., where most likely those rights won't be stripped away, but back home to Missouri, to Kansas, to Montana, to Alabama, to Texas, everywhere, where those rights will be stripped away, where it will become illegal again to marry who you love if you're gay, where it will become illegal again to be gay if Lawrence v. Texas comes overturned. And this isn't about an academic debate. It's about a professor that does not respect his students and does not hold certain students to the same esteem that he holds other students.
And you say that because of the opinion. I mean, because of the opinion, your interpretation is that he's viewing different students differently. But in the end, you say it's not academic. In the end, it's just that you disagree with the opinion. It's that you hate the opinion, and that's the problem. And that does seem to me to be exactly the same as saying if there's a conservative justice, or let's say it's a lawyer who took an unpopular case, oh, they don't have to take the case. It just seems to me that what you're doing is really stifling debate on campuses, which is a real concern of mine.
There are a number of other conservative professors who hold the exact same view, who also facilitate the same type of debate, who also hold those same queer students and students with wombs to the same esteem that they hold their straight, cisgendered male counterparts.
What does that mean that they hold them the same? If they hold the views that Thomas's opinion's right? Mm-hmm. should it be any professor who thinks that Justice Thomas is spot on is out?
I think there's a difference specifically because Justice Thomas is paving the way to overturn those rights. How do you look somebody in the eye? How does a gay person look somebody in the eye that's paving the way for it to be illegal to be gay in their state and argue with them that their existence should not be criminalized?
I don't know the answer to this question. Is his course a required course? Because I would think that you can probably opt out, right? If you don't want to be in a Supreme Court justice's class, you can probably say, I don't want to take his class.
I'm not sure. There is somebody that co-teaches the class with him, so I'm not familiar. I'm not too familiar with how the law school works, but maybe you can take.
Yeah. All right. So neither of us know. So, but in terms of, you're an undergraduate student, right? This is about the law school. Why should the undergraduates be dictating what's happening at the law school anyway?
By continuing the employment of Justice Thomas, the George Washington University is not endorsing his ideas, but it's endorsing his actions. It's endorsing his future actions.
Is it really endorsing his actions by saying we want a Supreme Court justice, big deal, to get that person to teach at the school? It's sort of a, big thing for them to be able to say, well, we got a Supreme Court justice, even if it's one that John Kay hates, right? I mean, no? No?
Well, it's also about a teacher it's also about an institution that values the safety of their students.
Yeah.
And in addition to his rulings, he has continued to reject to recuse himself from any January 6th proceedings.
All right. Well, that's a different issue,
But Foggy Bottom is 5 minutes away from where the insurrection happened.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the intellectual debate. Look, I'm glad you lost, but I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you, John Kay.
Appreciate it.
Interesting story. George Washington University is not caving to the demands to fire Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas from his job as an adjunct professor there. He voted, of course, to overturn Roe v. Wade and wrote that the court should also reconsider the rights to contraception and same-sex marriage, although the other justices did not hold that opinion. George Washington University says, quote, like all faculty members at our school, Justice Thomas has academic freedom and freedom of expression and inquiry. It is not the proper role of the university to attempt to shield individuals within or outside the university from ideas or opinions they find unwelcome, disagreeable, or even deeply offensive. But not everybody had the same reaction.
Friday's decision has made me a very strong advocate of the pull-out method, which is when you pull Clarence Thomas out of the Supreme Court.
This dude is so extreme. He's talking about banning rights I didn't even realize could be banned.
Well, you better hope that they don't come for you, Clarence, and say you should not be married to your wife, who happens to be white.
I went to law school with him. He's been a person of grievance for as long as I've known him. Resentment, grievance, anger.
Resentment and grievance from Hillary Clinton. Let's bring in Dr. Ben Carson, former Housing and Urban Development Secretary under President Trump and founder and chairman of the American Cornerstone Institute. Dr. Carson, always good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us today. What's your reaction to the sort of, cultural response to Clarence Thomas that you just heard there?
Well, certainly nothing particularly surprising. For many on the left, the only thing worse than Satan is a black conservative. And, they feel that Clarence Thomas is ripe for particular scorn because he is black and he's supposed to think a certain way. And, in terms of him being an embittered person like Hillary Clinton said, I've known Clarence Thomas for decades. I don't find him to be that way at all. He's one of the most beloved members of the Horatio Alger Society, which I'm a member of, who have many people that America admires. And they admire him not because he's a Supreme Court justice, but because of his personality. And, he's a perfect example of what my mother used to tell me. She would say, Benjamin, if you walk into an auditorium full of racist, bigoted people, you don't have a problem. They have a problem because they're all going to cringe and wonder if you're going to sit next to them, whereas you can sit anywhere you want. And that's sort of the philosophy he takes. He's not going to allow other people's grievances and prejudices and hatred to affect his life.
So what about the part of his opinion where he talked about the court revisiting whether or not the contraception decision or the same-sex marriage decision were rightly decided by the Supreme Court, given the broader due process clause in the Constitution and what it does and doesn't apply to?
Yeah, I think he's simply saying that, you know, we have a court now that will perhaps listen without hysterics to some of the arguments that maybe they didn't listen to before. And if a compelling case presents itself, I don't think he's advocating let's go out and look for such a case. But if it comes up, they're willing to consider it. And that's a good thing. You know, one of the things that is so bothersome right now is that we have a court system in which we have certain justices, we always know how they're going to vote because they vote ideologically rather than based on the Constitution. And that's disturbing. And we have people who want to put more of those types of justices on the Supreme Court. That's something that we should all be very concerned about.
Just very quickly, about 20 seconds, you know, speaking out about Loving versus Virginia, the ruling about interracial marriage, what did you think of that comment, given that his wife is a white woman?
That's an absurd comment. You know, interracial marriage has been something that we've seen a lot of recently because people are getting to know each other. And they recognize the thing that makes a person who they are is their brain, not their skin. And that's a wonderful kudos for America.
Dr. Ben Carson, thank you, sir. Good to hear from you today.
Thank you.
I certainly think that the greatest threat to the liberal coalition are black conservatives who stand up and think for ourselves. We represent the fact that the African American community is not a monolithic community. If you could ever break the stronghold that the Democrats have in the African American community, the entire coalition falls apart. And think about this, Jesse. President Biden's approval ratings have never been lower in the African American community and the Hispanic community. The last thing people want to see are people like Clarence Thomas, Ben Carson, and myself standing up and making common sense popular everywhere in the nation. And oh, by the way, we happen to be black. That is a great threat to the entire coalition on the left. So they want to shut it down, cancel Clarence Thomas because he dares to think for himself. But more importantly, don't you think for yourself, because they want the price to be so high that you don't ever dare to leave wherever they say you should sit.
Tonight, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas won't be teaching at George Washington University Law School in the fall. GW Law says Thomas told them he is not available to teach. This comes weeks after students formed a petition to have Thomas removed from the university following the overturning of Roe v. Wade. GW said it wouldn't terminate Thomas because it supports a robust exchange of ideas. You might remember that. And I should also point out there's no indication that Thomas's decision to leave has anything to do with that student petition.